We still have a third item, which is a common concern as well, and that's fair adjustment of the MTRCL. And I will extend the meeting by 15 minutes. There are 7 motions altogether. The final one is by Mr. Luk Chung-hong. Mr. Michael Tian, please read out your motion. Thank you, Chairman. The administration is studying introducing the merit point system for taxi drivers to strengthen deterrent against breaching the law, but it's difficult to get evidence, and each side has their own story. Some taxi groups have set up CCTV filming the drivers, and signs are put up that there is no breach of privacy ordinance. We urge the administration to introduce that as well. Time is out. Would you please cast your vote, members? Please press button. Have members all voted? If not, if you have all voted, then please check your vote. Voting is closed. Result displayed. 10 for, 3 against, 2 abstentions. The motion is endorsed. We deal with the second motion, which is moved by Dr. Lena Wong. Ms. Wong, please read out the motion. This panel urged the administration to review and study the ferry routes and provision of piers, and to study in Kai Tak Cultural District, Hong Ham Kai Tak Development, West Kowloon Cultural District, to set up piers and a connection service so as to reduce pressure on land traffic and provide choice to passengers. Those in favor, please raise their hands. Unanimously endorsed. No objection. The motion is endorsed. The third motion is by Mr. Jeremy Tam. Please read it out. Thank you. Of the 64 BBIs of the PTIs of the transport department, more than half exceeds the AQO of in terms of carbon dioxide, undermining health of people. The panel urges the administration to improve the guideline on semi-enclosed public transport interchange, so that the standard of CO2 is reduced to 200 mg per square meter per hour, and it should also enhance the ventilation system of public transport interchanges by extending time and improving efficiency. The government should also take the initiative to discuss with bus companies to deploy Euro 5 vehicles to public transport interchange and review the standard from time to time to ensure health of passengers. Those in favor, please raise their hands. To comply with the standards. Yes. Those in favor, please raise their hands. (14) Those against. Those abstain. 2 abstentions. 14 for. The motion is endorsed. Mr. Jeremy Tam, next. Minibus drivers have long working hours and do not have enough rest. It seriously affects road safety and passenger safety. I urge the panel urges the administration to review the guideline which sets the longest working hour at 14 hours and driving hours 11 hours, so that it will be shortened to 12 hours and 10 hours respectively, so as to standardize with the hours for bus drivers. Those in favor, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. No. Those against, please raise their hands. No. 15 for. The motion is carried. Next. Mr. Jeremy Tam. At present, the administration considers usage rate as the basis for the bus frequencies, but the standard is based on standing 6 person per square meters for standing passengers. We urge the administration to reduce it to 4 persons per square meters, so as to be at par with the MTR. Those in favor, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. Those abstain. 2. Those in favor, 9. Among those who have voted, 1 objection, 1 against, and 2 abstentions. The motion is endorsed. Ms. Jeremy Tam, the administration, this panel is a review that the progress of public transport strategy study does not deal with the overall issue on distribution of labor, development of new means of transport, internet vehicles, internet hail cars, promotion of traffic bicycles, and improvement pedestrian environment. We urge the administration to conduct a 4th comprehensive CTS and draw up a short-term, medium, and long-term targets and a comprehensive plan and report to this council. The administration should adopt a demand-led criterion. The government should collect details in large scale and then analyze traffic demand and traveling habits through big data to formulate suitable long-term public transport strategy.
Will those in favor please raise your hands? Nine. Those against, please raise your hands. 3. Abstentions. 1. It's carried by a majority. Last motion from Mr. Luk Chung Hong. Recent franchise bus company applied for cutting the frequency of 40 routes without local consultations. We find it regrettable that this is done. We request that the bus company should consult the district councils and the public before proposing cuts to the frequency, and also to increase the transparency. Those in favor, please raise your hands. 14. Those against, please raise their hands. 1. Abstentions. 2. The motion is carried by majority of members who voted. I'd like to thank the officials for this item. We move on to the next item. MTR fare adjustment for 2018. Please invite the officials to join us. Those members who want to speak, please press the button. Today we also have representatives from the MTR CL. Members who would like to raise questions, please come inside as quickly as you can. The meeting will only last until 1 p.m. So far, 8 members have pressed the button to speak. Who will walk us through the paper? Today with MTR CL representative here to brief members of the MTR fare adjustment for 2018. Well, the current fare adjustment mechanism was set in 2007 when the two railway companies merged, and this is in line with our this is done through a service agreement signed with the government. This is a statutory binding. We understand the MTRCL, in order to respond to public aspirations, to come up with a new FAM in 2016, so that for the 6 years starting from 2017, the new fare adjustment mechanism would apply. And in April, last year, the government, the MTRCL, gave a briefing to this panel. And we have reduced 0.6% on the one-off service, and there will also be a discount in fares last year. So last year, the adjustment was 1.49%. And under the mechanism, the increase will be transferred to this year's adjustment. Last year, the MTR-CL also provide a 3% discount to the Octopus card user for 6 months. For 2018 fare adjustment mechanism, again, is based on the 2017 mechanism, included under this direct approach. For 2018, the adjustment was 1.65%, which has taking into account the direct discount provided by the MTRC. So this year's the adjustment rate is 3.14%. In accordance with past practice, the adjustment cannot be higher than the change in the median family income. According to CNS department, for fourth quarter is 9.6%. And this year, for combining the 2 years, 2016, 2017, 2018, and compare with the rise in family median income is 11.9%. So whether we're talking about the changes in family median income, the 3.14% adjustment will be on the will be lower than the change in family median income. And also there's under profit sharing mechanism and the service performance arrangement, there will be 6 months of the 3% rebate. So according to the MTRCL for 2018, there will be no actual adjustment for autobus car users. There are calls from the public to adjust the FAM. The MTRCL has no plan to revise the mechanism recently. The government will look at how the mechanism works in 2017-18 to 2022-23, and there will be another reviewed after the 6-year period. And here, may I invite the MTRC representative to brief members now. Well, I have extended the meeting time by 15 minutes. Our making members are about to speak. We need 24 minutes if everyone is given 3 minutes. So we don't have time for the MTRC representative to brief us first. So may I invite members to consider whether we should extend the meeting time by 15 minutes. Who will walk us through the proposal from the MTRC? Ms. Yang. Well, the Undersecretary has talked about the background, so I won't repeat what he has already said. The MTRCL has served Hong Kong for more than 40 years, and in terms of ridership, it's more than 2 billion, and we are talking about 3.2 million trips in 2017. So we have increased the numbers by 34% and about 20% respectively.
係喺我哋繁忙時間其中一刻嗰個列車行駛嘅一個班。
The map showing the routes and the frequency. The entire network is already very highly developed and is an intricate system. And we're talking about frequency of 2 minutes or lower. Since we have entered another phase after 40 years, it's a very developed network. We need to invest a lot in repair and maintenance and upgrading of our railway stock so that we can provide good service to passengers. In 2017, we invested more than $8 billion in this area. It's a 50% increase compared with 5 years ago. And we have entered the 40th year of service, and we need to invest more and more. In the past 5 years, we've invested $34 billion on the railway system, including the upgrading of the signaling system and buying new trains. And we are also going to improve our facilities in view of public opinion and comments, such as upgrading air conditioning, installing the escalators and lifts. And in 13 stations, we have installed the lifts for access to the platform from the great area, from great entrances. We need a lot of resources to support such improvements. In terms of fares, we maintained fares which are considered reasonable by the public. And in the past 2 years, the average inflation rate was 3.2%, during which the average rate of increase for salary is 44.4%. During the same period, the fares went up by 2.5% per annum. So in other words, the fare increases were not able to catch up with the increases in costs. And the current fare adjustment mechanism was set in 2007, as the Undersecretary has said, which is fair, transparent, and objective. And there was a review in 2017 on the FAM that we spent a lot of time in talking to stakeholders, and we've worked out something which we think can take care of views from various quarters. So in brief, I would like to highlight some important points of the adjustments. So every year under the formula, there will be an additional downward adjustment of 0.6 percentage point. And we also got other adjustments under the profit sharing mechanism and the service performance agreement, and that is there will be a 3% rebate for at least 3 months, for at least 6 months a year. And sometimes the profit may not allow us to do that, but we have promised to do this for at least 6 months in the year in offering the 3% rebate. And also for 500 GMB routes, we're also going to offer a 30-cent interchange discount. And also there are funding under service performance arrangement and profit sharing mechanism. We're going to provide more funds for the two mechanisms. And after the a comprehensive round of discussion, and we have worked out an adjustment proposal to the best of our ability. And for the 2018 round of adjustment, in accordance with the formula, the increase is 2.25%. So we're going to reduce it by 0.6 percentage point, and also taking into account the rate of increase from last year, the total adjustment will be 3.14%. And this is lower than the changes in family median income for the 2 years concerned. We are working out the adjustments for the individual journeys, and in 2018-2019, we are going to provide a rebate of $222.5 million. We're going to top up the provision by $60 million to ensure that it can last for 6 months. So for the autopass passenger users, there's no actual fare adjustment for 2018. I mentioned the 30-cent interchange discount for 500 GMB routes. The existing concessions and discount will remain unchanged. We will announce the details on the concession period very soon. And also we are providing other concessions to the elderly, students, the disabled, and we also offer monthly passes to passengers. Students can enjoy a half fare for all journeys. We are the only public transport operator providing this concession to students, and of course elderly passengers and disabled passengers pay only $2 in fare. And for some of the concessions, they are paid for by the MTR. We have different monthly passes for different passengers commuting for long haul, or on average 5.6 million people take the MTR. Some 60% are entitled to different types of rebate or concession, which is 3 million passengers. It would involve $2.6 million in 2017.
To enable passengers to understand different types of concessions, we have this from the MTR Mobile. Now you just input the number of days you use the MTR and your trips, destinations, and then we'll give you a suggestion as to whether you buy a monthly pass or what kind of concession can you have. Say, for example, a person going to work, he goes steadily from Tung Chung to Wan Chai nearly every day. We suggest he make use of a monthly pass, and that will save about 50% in comparison with a single journey ticket, and 40% in comparison with traveling with octopus. We've been in operation for nearly 40 years. We need to put in more resources to replace and upgrade our services, and therefore we need a suitable fare adjustment mechanism to provide a long-term stable source of finance so as to improve our maintenance and update our service. As for our promotion arrangement in 2018-19, there will be detailed announcement in due course. 9 members who have indicated they want to speak. I draw a line there, and I'll give 3 minutes to each member. First, Mr. Choi. I will end at 15:15. Mr. Choi. I'm concerned about unfair charging. I live in NT West. I represent NT West. I've noticed that the West Rail and Lantau line, in comparison with the East Rail, we are more than 50% more expensive. Therefore, you have introduced a monthly pass. East Rail, $470 for monthly pass. West Rail, $580. Tung Chung line, $620. If you compare this with the single traffic ticket, then the single traffic ticket can reduce its price by 48% for West Rail, Tung Chung line 54%. MTR CL says that there is the monthly pass and you deal with the problem. But those people who work in the airport will not have the monthly pass, and if they want to go out to the urban area during their days off, then they will have to pay more than $40 for a return trip. So, will you consider the levels of West Rail, East Rail, and Tung Chung line? Will you adjust the single trip fare for West Rail and Tung Chung line? And secondly, are you going to provide day concessions for Tung Chung line? As for fare structure, any change will require detailed consideration. Now, the route is very complicated. If there is any change, then the whole fare structure will be thrown into confusion. As we've provided monthly passes, and I've heard your day pass suggestion. Will you conduct a study into day pass? When Dr. Chung was the secretary, he said that there would be a study, but more than a year and a half has elapsed, and you have not made any suggestion. Will you actively consider day pass? Will we actively consider that? Next, Mr. Chen Ying. As for the fare adjustment mechanism, the profit sharing factor has increased by $25 million. Now, there is property development profits. Will there be an adequate cover? You increase it from $13 billion to $15 billion. Now, your basic business profit is about $10 billion, and that is $15 billion buffer. That's adequate. I appreciate that. As for the performance service performance arrangement, you increase the fine to $15 million, from $15 million to $25 million. There were 10 delays. It was about $2.25 million. And so it's far from the $15 million. So raising the ceiling to $25 million is useless. I think you should focus on unreasonable long delays, say 31 minutes, fine $1 million. But what about more than 1 hour and less than 2 hours, or 2 hours to 3 hours? I think it should be doubled. Those 3 million will be increased to 4.5 million or even 6 million. So the fine will be 45 million instead of 22.5 million. I think as for the cap, keeping it to 15 or 25 million per event is adequate. Will you consider that? I think the government should talk to the MTRCL. We've heard Mr. Chen's view. As for the service performance arrangement, we know that that is such a demand. The arrangement is to ensure that the MTRCL will raise its service level and at the same time benefit the passengers. Now, if we say that setting the limit below 31 limits may have an implication on the service of the frontline workers, and that may undermine the service because they want to restart they want to shorten the delay. But we will consider his suggestion. I don't think increasing the amount will impose a pressure on the workers. That will be that will put pressure on the MTRCL to improve its service. Ms. Claudia Mo. Every year, the MTRCL is making profits and is also increasing its fares every year. It seems it's just it's really a farce. Now you want to be financially sound, and you want to increase your fares. And you know that raising your fares every year is not reasonable. Therefore, you introduce one kind of concessions after another. There are so many kinds of concessions that it is really confusing. And you need to increase the administrative cost is increased substantially. I think it's meaningless to talk about concessions if you just increase your fares every year. Now the government is the biggest shareholder of the MTRCL. The MTRCL is making profits every year. Now you say there is no land and the waiting time for public housing is 5.1 years on average. What about new MTR stations or redevelopment of MTR stations? Are you going to build public housing on top of them? The MTRCL should listen to the government because it is the biggest shareholder. The administration, I thank Ms. Mo for her view. Putting up public housing estates on top of MTR stations. The Housing Authority, of course, welcomes this. The waiting time is 5.1 years, and the queue is more than 150,000 on the general waiting list. We're happy to get more land for public housing, but we have to suggest that the MTRCL has to discuss with the government on the land use. But you represent the government. You think it's okay? Do you think it's okay? It's good. A good idea. Mr. Choi, I think Ms. Mo's question and also the explanation given by the Secretary. Now we are short land whatever kind of land is in shortage. There are no new station which will have property development. But when there is, we will have to consider the overall situation, and we have not handed over land to the MTLCL for property development. We need to consider the plan, the overall supply comprehensively. Please do not reject this. Mr. Kwong, as time is another fare increase. The MTLCL has delays many times, and therefore you provide a concession of 3.14%, but now you provide a concession of 3%, and now you have a fare increase of 3.14%. There is no concession at all. What is the government doing? Have you ever considered the interests of the ordinary citizens? Have you defended the rights of ordinary citizens? Last year there was a freeze of 1.5%, and now they can get it back by a big increase. I thank Mr. Kwong for his question. The government, being the biggest shareholder, will certainly maintain close communication with the MTLCL. But the FAM is a direct drive formula and is also regulated by law, is legally binding. The role of the government is to make sure that whether the outcome according to the formula is reasonable and whether it's agreeable. It is a set of open data. Everybody can calculate the fare adjustment magnitude beforehand. It's highly transparent. As for the government's role, we'll maintain close liaison with the MTLCL, and we will encourage the MTLCL to provide more concessions to the passengers, and the MTLCL has done a lot in terms of corporate social responsibility. Last year, MTL made profit of $16.8 billion. It is still going to increase its fare. Is it reasonable? Is the fare adjustment mechanism unreasonable, and shouldn't it be reviewed? If you look at the fare adjustment mechanism, we have reviewed it 1 year in advance, and we come up with this new arrangement. This new arrangement will be applied for 6 years, and we've just applied it for 1 year. We will collect more data so that in the next review we can incorporate more views and improve the mechanism. Last year it made a profit of $16.8 billion and now increased the fare by 3.14%. Is it reasonable? Let me stress that the FAM is based on an agreement and is legally binding. The direct drive formula is based on open and transparent data and is also legally binding. Ms. Elizabeth Cut. Now the MTL keeps on increasing fares upon years and years of profit. Now fare increase affects people's livelihood. There's a mechanism to enable the MTLCL to increase its fare even if it has a huge profit. The government is the biggest shareholder, and the policy is favoring the MTLCL. Therefore, the MTL with the DAB therefore propose to take away the 1.49% and also the rebate of 22.5 billion of $2.25 billion of rebate should be given, and the concessions should also be increased so as to help the grassroots. Will the administration ask MTLCL to consider this?
副局。首先多謝葛珮帆議員嘅。
Thank you, Elizabeth Kwok, for your question. I think she's suggesting a number of concessions. As I said, this is calculated under direct drive formula. The data are open and transparent, and this statutory binding, and the MTRCL is duty bound to follow the mechanism. And although the adjustments has been made under the FAM, they are also going to provide other concessions. We'll continue to communicate with the MTRCL. We'll encourage MTRCL to provide more concessions. So it's not going to be looked into. So let me turn to my second question. We have a aging population issue in many districts. Many MTR stations did not take into account the need to cater to the elderly passengers when they were built, and there's a shortage of lifts and escalators. And you don't have a sufficient number of entrances. In fact, many districts have asked for more entrances to be built, and also for the installation of more lifts and escalators. And now you are going to increase the fares. Are you going to consider these suggestions made repeatedly by different district councils? We are paying attention to the aging population. From 2012 and 2017, in 13 stations we've installed lifts. Since 2014, we have used the lifts in respect of 24 such devices. We have more escalators. We'll continue to listen to their views. There's so many stations. You only install a dozen or so more. So why don't you do more? And they are the suggestions of the district councils. So please add more lifts and escalators. Mr. Chen Chung Tai, first of all, I have to censure Dr. So. It shouldn't be you that talk about that this fare adjustment is relatively low. In the first policy address of Mrs. Carrie Tam, the highlight was the fare concession. And that is the dividends will be used to subsidize people's expenditure on transport. And it's just saying that you redeploy some resources to some people who will benefit. But this is just something done under the formula. So they would propose the changes, propose a fare increase under the formula. Will Mrs. Carrie Lam also increase the transport fare subsidy to people? Or are we going to benefit the MTRCL? It was just 6 months ago. Or it was just for 6 months, the concession. Did you take into account that starting from this year, the MPR fares will go up by 3.14%? Are you going to correspondingly increase the subsidy to people? Thank you for your question. I want to say something about the public transport fare subsidy arrangement. We have secured funding approval from the FC. At the end of this year or early next year, it will be launched. The amount of subsidy will be in line with the scheme already devised. So the subsidy will cover anything in excess of $400, and this scheme has yet to be implemented. We have promised to carry out a review after a year. Of course, by that time, we'll look at the affordability of passengers and also the expenditure at the time. So are you saying that by paying more on MTR fares, you get more in subsidy. Or so in the past, some people might not be able to get $400, and now with a fare increase, they will be able to get up to $400. Well, the scheme is transparent. If you spend more than $400, then 25% will be given as a subsidy with a cap of $300. So it doesn't mean that people will get more because of the fare increase. Mr. Michael Tin, the government has made a profit of $16.8 billion, but according to the mechanism, the fares have to be increased. People are offended by this. It's different from KCRC, so it was wholly owned by the government, and therefore fares could never be increased. You are going to provide 3% rebate for 6 months using $22.5 million. To be fair, they have forked out another additionally $40 million to make it possible. I'm not saying that I welcome this, but I have to say that they are giving additionally $40 million. The Octopus card users can enjoy the rebate, but not those who are using monthly passes. I understand that the monthly pass schemes are not covered by the FAM. Only single journey fares are covered. In the past, the increase in monthly pass fares would be in line with single journey fares. Last year there was no increase for single journey fares. This year it's rolled over. So I would like to ask whether this time monthly pass fares will not increase in line with single journey fares, because it's not covered by FAM. There's no excuse. The discount of monthly passes compared with Octopus card users represents a saving of 10 to 40%. Would certainly like to maintain the level of concessions. So that's why when we adjust fares paid by single journey the passengers or Octopus card user, we would adjust the monthly pass fares. This year, Octopus card users would effectively pay nothing more. So we're going to consider Mr. Michael Tin's suggestions. All right? So it would be considered? Yes, it would be considered. Mr. Luk Chung Hong, why is it that every year the MTRCL is criticized whenever we talk about fare adjustment? It's because you are making huge profits. People had expectations when you conducted the review in 2017, and after a lot of hustle and bustle, there's nothing change to the FAM except that 0.6 percentage point will be deducted. FTU would like to propose that the fare adjustment be linked to profits. So additionally, there should be a factor of EBITDA, not counting the operations in China and elsewhere and subsidiary companies, and there should be a 40% reduction. If you earn more, you reduce the rate of increase. That's the idea behind this suggestion. Secondly, you have the sharing profit arrangement. You're only going to give $200 million out of the $16.8 billion. Is a drop in the bucket. Will the government review once again the FAM quickly? The last term of government advanced scheduled by 1 year. So can you also advance the next review? You are going to offer a 3% rebate for Octopus card users for 6 months. Why not do it for the whole year? It's only going to cost you a little extra. And I think they would more or less cover the fare increase. So we can buy some time for the review of the FAM. People would be more convinced of the effectiveness. It's not meaningful to talk about the rising costs. It was built by the government, and you have many sources of revenue. First of all, I thank Mr. Look Chung Hong for his comments. First of all, I have to say that FAM is a statutory binding mechanism. Last year there was a discussion, and the adjusted FAM was only implemented in 2017. We need to see how it works, and then in the next review we can then try to enhance the mechanism. Can the 3% rebate be extended to 12 months? I'll ask the MTRCL to respond. In the review last year, we look at a raft of measures, and then there's a concession involving GMB. It would also incur tens of millions of dollars of resources. We were trying to get the right balance. Mr. Look Chung Hong is correct. Every time you want to increase fares, or you would be criticized. So while the MTRCL is making huge profits, you are not willing to share with passengers. You still want to increase the fares by 3.14%, and it has happened many times in the past. That's why we want to review the FAM, because this mechanism is for increases and never and seldom for decreases. So this is why you suffer from a problem of poor public perception. It said that stakeholders, including the district council, electrical, passengers, shareholders, and academics will be consulted. At least out of these groups of three would be against fare increases. Shareholders would like to have bigger profits. But don't forget, it's just like a public utility. MTRC is just a public utility. If you regard yourself as a listed company and you want to go for a bigger profit, this is just simply unrealistic. You have given us a table showing the amount of profits and how many will be plowed back to provide concessions and discounts. You earn 16 or 20, even it's $20 billion in profit, you are not going to give 10% to passengers. If you say that you are going to plow back 30% of profit to passengers, whatever the profit level, then people will find it more agreeable. But now, even if the profit is $100 billion, you are only going to give just a few hundreds of millions. So how can people find this agreeable? You know that there are many routes which are already in service for decades, such as the Kuntong and East Rail lines. You should look at enhancement. The mainland is using technology to improve performance. For example, they have sensors installed on the tracks so that the incidents can be reduced. Well, it doesn't make sense that if we ask you to pay for a penalty, because that's just counted as part of the cost. I know time has been exceeded. We know that we need to use technology more extensively. In terms of repair and maintenance, the cost has been rising. It has to do with manpower, and we are doing enhancement all the time. As the member has rightly pointed out, well, it cannot be done by the imposing a fine on incidents or delays. We all understand, our people understand that delays should be avoided or if at all possible. But we're talking about a system where the incidents cannot be avoided. Would they consider giving some plowback out of the profits in terms of a percentage of profit? Members, before the next regular meeting, the government is going to provide an information paper on the 2018 MTR fare adjustment. So that concludes the discussion of this item. Now AOB, there's nothing under AOB, so meeting's adjourned. Thank you for your attendance.